Unspoken Issues.
We are now going to get into visually one of my favorite books out of this whole Infinity relaunch. I didn't realize until I saw the creative team as I was doing my research here, probably why I liked what I got here. So we are hopping into Rune number Infinity. This was on the shelves September 28th, 1995. Written by Len Kaminski, penciled by Kyle Hotz, inked by Jason Moore, lettered by Clem Robbins, and colored by Timothy T. DeVar. So, Rune, probably one of the biggest names to come out of the Ultraverse, created by Barry Windsor Smith.
It says right here, created by Barry Windsor Smith and Chris Holmes. So, but yeah, Rune is one of the more highly regarded books, largely because of Barry Windsor Smith's involvement in that first series. He also did the Conan crossover later.
Right. Well, what are your thoughts on Rune before you get a hold of the Infinity issue?
Rune was not one of my favorites when I was a kid getting Ultraverse stuff. Honestly, I think Rune may not have launched until after I was out of comics. It's hard for me to remember. Before he got his first issue, there were a bunch of backup stories and like 2 or 3 page stories in a lot of other Ultraverse books leading up to the launch of Rune. Once I got back into the books as an adult, I really like Windsor Smith's art. The story is solid. It's still not one of my favorite Ultraverse books, though.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I know that we've done the Conan Rune crossover where I think that went through, there were 3 issues. We did that here as me, Dean, and Derry. And yeah, I knew of Rune. Rune seemed like although I knew very little about him, as I go through the synopsis, I should tell you that I went through most of this book thinking it was Rune until we realized at the end, this is not Rune that we're talking about here. This is Noel Robinson and Eric Johnson are the 2 people we're going to be talking about here who at some point got merged together into one person. There is something about the Shu-Ji power, which you're not going to get much of an explanation here. You're just going to understand that that's something that one of these guys have, or actually both of them have. They have Eric Johnson at the top and then Eric Johnston in the middle here. So I don't know if it's Eric Johnston or Eric Johnson, but over here it has Eric Johnson.
Even though Wiki can't keep it straight.
Eric and Noel. So anyway, at first when I was reading this, I thought it was Rune all the way. If you're ready, I will go ahead and get into the synopsis and then we'll go through our notes. You ready?
Enough.
All right. The story begins in the dark streets of Los Angeles, where a monstrous figure descends from the rooftops with a feral scream. His red eyes burn through the night, claws dripping as he tears into helpless victims. Any trace of humanity is gone. Only hunger remains. He rips through the city in a frenzy, killing indiscriminately as horrified witnesses whisper that he's out of control. But beneath the monster's rage lies a trapped consciousness, Noel, forced to watch as his twin brother Eric, fused to him in body and spirit, indulges in his bloodlust. The narration reveals Noel's horror and helplessness, begging for Eric to stop as the massacre unfolds, leaving a trail of bodies and chaos in its wake. At the LAPD's 80th precinct, detectives investigate the carnage with disbelief. This crime scene photos look more like a war zone than murders. Torn limbs, drained corpses, and a mysterious crater linked to the attack. Just as the police begin to piece together theories, a team of shadowy federal agents led by the cold and commanding Agent Keel storm in. Claiming authority from upstairs, they confiscate all evidence, silencing questions and leaving local law enforcement uneasy. Meanwhile, Noel awakens alone in a dumpster, his body bruised, his mind foggy. He curses Eric for his recklessness and discovers a newspaper headline revealing a survivor from the massacre, a loose end that could expose everything. As he tries to gather his strength far away in a cold digital network, biomechanical overseers discuss Subject U-366 and demand its recapture. Exhausted, Noel seeks refuge in a decrepit church, collapsing among the homeless. His brief rest turns into psychic confrontation as Eric's mocking laughter fills his head. Inside their shared mental landscape, the brothers clash violently. Fangs and fists, fury against conscience. Rune's ancient curse fuels Eric's monstrous strength, while Noel channels the Shuji energy coursing through their body to fight back. Their battle mirrors another across dimensions, where Rune himself is attacking a nihilist in the negative zone, seeking to devour the energy of the cosmic control rod. Both conflicts burn with the same theme, hunger and control. Noel unleashes a surge of light, forcing Eric back and apologizing for what he must do. But before peace can come, Eric's charred form reemerges, attacking again in blind rage. Elsewhere in Colorado, the secret agency Aladdin monitors a massive cocoon that suddenly stirs to life. Well, it wasn't stirring to life, but then the Nemesis wave hits, and all of a sudden, it's stirring to life. The shell bursts open to reveal Adam Warlock, reborn and cryptic as ever, declaring that death cannot hold him. Back with Noel and Eric's psychic war, the brothers reach an uneasy truce. Neither can destroy the other, so they agree to share the body. Noel controlling their conscience, Eric their strength and appetite. When night falls and Eric resumes control, something goes terribly wrong. His body convulses, flesh splitting, wings bursting from his back as he transforms into something no longer human. When the metamorphosis ends, Eric stands reborn as a winged monstrosity, glowing red eyes and razor fangs glinting in the dark. Noel, trapped within, realizes the horrifying truth. Their fragile balance has shattered, and the creature they have become is beyond either brother's control. All right, so there it is. That is Rune number Infinity. All right, Chris, what do you got?
Well, this one's a little confusing as well.
Yep.
Now, I believe Noel and Eric, if I remember right, and I'm trying to reach back into the early days of the Ultraverse, the part of the storyline in the early Rune issues was that these two were synthetic beings created by Aladdin. So they're not technically human. Maybe they're cyborgs.
Here, I'll read something to you here real quick. In roughly the 60s or 70s of the Ultraverse, a ship capable of harnessing Shuji energy was uncovered on Earth by General Holden Raider. An entire secret government agency known as Aladdin grew up around Raider and this ship as he attempted to harness its power for America. Working with the alien-derived AI called Genie, Raider and Aladdin reasoned Shuji energies were best wielded in pairs, and so they genetically extrapolated twin boys named Eric Johnston and Noel Robinson, raising them in seclusion from each other until they were old enough to wield the Shuji power for Aladdin. Unfortunately for Aladdin, Rune had also made his way from the god wheel to Earth and interrupted their plans. Eric and Noel end up fused into a single entity named Gemini, wielding the power of both Adam Warlock and Rune and under the control of no one. Thank you, Marvel fandom, I guess. But yeah, it sounds like they were created in a lab, like genetically extrapolated twin boys. So
yeah. Those early Rune issues, the focus was kind of half the story was focusing on Rune and half of it was on these twins and their story. With this one, the opening page, I want to point out, I'm assuming this is Kyle Hotz' contribution, but all this graffiti on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
There's Fire Walk with Me, which is the Twin Peaks movie.
Yeah.
There's the quote from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There are those who call me Tim.
Tim.
Is on there. And there's the Crow, some other stuff. Another interesting piece here is John Keel.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with John Keel?
That name sounds familiar.
I believe he's the guy who wrote the Mothman prophecies.
John.
Let me.
Yeah, you know what? In the movie, he keeps calling him John Klein, but I think you're right. Let's look. I've read that book and I had to sleep with the light on.
Yeah, that's him. And there's a lot of stuff with John Keel about the Men in Black.
Yep.
Which obviously the movies are a big thing, but that's based on a real phenomenon kind of associated with UFOs and stuff. The Men in Black are like characters who just show up out of nowhere. The real stories of the Men in Black are a little weirder than what even is in this book. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that John Keel gets a shout out on the graffiti, and then we see 3 Men in Black show up later in the issue. I do like Kyle Hotz art. He had done Nightman before this. I think Nightman and Rune are both books that are really, like, he's really well suited to do.
Mm-hmm.
More so maybe Nightman, but he's good with Rune as well because of like the exaggeration of the anatomy he gives those characters, the vampire characters, and he's really good at the gore.
Oh yeah,
that we see in some of these when they find the cocoon that ends up being Adam Warlock's. Initially, I thought that was going to be one of these things that during the breakthrough story, there were these cocoon-looking things on the moon that had to do with the jumpstart effect and stuff.
mm-hmm.
And I thought that was what that was going to be. And then when I got closer to the hatching, I was like, oh, wait, that's what Adam Warlock is always busting out of when he comes back to life. So I kind of remembered that he was going to be showing up eventually. It's kind of weird that this is a Rune comic and he gets 2 full pages.
Yeah.
In here, just checking in, seeing what he's going on with Rune, guys. Oh, he's fighting Nihilus in the negative zone. And then I'm not sure if this battle between the twins, it seems like it's all in their head.
Right.
I'm not really sure why the blast affected the one twin so much, where he's just all charred. I guess that's a representation of their interior battle. But anyway, this one was pretty confusing, but it was pretty enjoyable as well. I still liked reading it, and the art was really good for this type of story.
I mentioned how much I enjoyed this, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's so incredibly violent.
Yeah.
I really thought that, okay, yeah, we're all gloves are off with Rune here. I mean, we are ripping and tearing. I think it's like the second panel, or when he's swinging, he's just taking a bite out of that girl's neck, and it's not like the classic vampire bite and suck. No, he's tearing her throat out with his teeth, and it's good. Kyle Hotz. So we did. I remember him from Ghost Rider 2099, and that and Len Kaminski was doing Ghost Rider 2099 as well, and there are some very clear cyberpunk elements, especially when you're looking at those Terminator-esque robots. You know, they're kind of these 3 synthetic beings or whatever. And then you have this huge, almost death's head alien brain hovering over them. When you look at that page, those 3 men in black dudes are serving this alien thing that's plugged into the net, I assume over the internet or online somehow. Regardless, I was like, okay, that's where I was like, who's doing the art? Because I recognized the writer, and I was like, I've heard of him, but I didn't remember Kyle Hotz right off the bat. And as soon as I started seeing this crazy imagery of the skeletons, I was like, this is Ghost Rider 2099 all over. And then sure enough, that's where Kyle Hotz brings it in this issue. I love how over the top violent it is. My note was the cocoon looks like a Warlock cocoon. Well, lo and behold, it is. And I also had to go to the web. I had to go to what I read in order to learn about Eric and Noel. Just like you said, this is, again...
you have no clue.
Right. The internet was around back then, but Marvel fandom has taken years to get all the stuff that it has on there right now. New readers did not have that.
Maybe you could stumble onto an Ultraverse message board or something.
Right. Right. And I mean, you're at a disadvantage. I was at a disadvantage when I was reading this. I thought this was Rune. Like, Noel was trying to fight back the Rune side of him. And I was like, that isn't what I remember much of Rune. I thought Rune was just a vampire and that's it. I don't ever remember this being, a situation where he was always had a human side to him. Obviously it's not, because Rune is over in the negative zone hanging out with a Nihilus, and that's it. We have the reality wave here, which definitely happens right at the moment. The Nemesis wave happens when they're looking at the cocoon. They're looking the cocoon over. And I think one panel says, there's no readings from this, it's dead. And then the next panel hits and it's like, oh, the readings from this are off the chart. So you could tell.
At first, and then I noticed the grid panel is going off on on the cocoon, so it was kind of letting you know that the change was happening.
Right.
At first, I was like, "Are these two different people looking at two different monitors?" Or what's
Right. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I have. I don't have any other notes, so I will pick a panel. And my panel is going to be, I've got it described here, but now I got to go find it. I'll take Eric with the fist through the chest. So I've got to find it here where it's at. I think it happens, I want to say it happens before page 2. Yes, that's right. It's way at the beginning.
4. I know, because that was my panel.
It's almost not even a fist. It's more like he's just sticking his hand through the dude's chest.
Right.
And his hand is just coming out the other side open. That page right there is so super violent. It's like, hey guys, you know Rune, right? Well, we aren't going to tone anything down right now. And they just let loose. Turnabout's fair play then, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go with page 19, the reveal of Adam Warlock.
That's a good one. Yeah, him coming out of that thing. And that's a cool look. I mean, Adam Warlock, yellow skin, blue armor. I don't know. This is 95. So I was just looking at some things online today because I was making notes on the next couple issues. Infinity War happens in 92, which I think
Crusade is 93.
Warlock ends up getting killed at some point and then is back in his cocoon again.
I know that there was that Infinity Watch book that went on for a while, and there was a big crossover with Thor and the Infinity Watch called Blood and Thunder. So I don't really know when that book ended or what happened to him, but I'm assuming he was dead this time. This was them bringing him back to let the Ultraverse have some fun with him.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is.
Go
ahead.
One more thing to mention. When they're in Aladdin and, the AI is taken over here or whatever, and there's these two workers, one of them's kind of complaining about the way things are going, and we see the computer program maybe speaking to the robot soldiers or whatever, but it says replacement of all essential personnel must be accelerated. So those guys are not long for this world.
I know.
They reminded me of the two disposable characters in that Lobo the Duck issue.
I do remember that.
They didn't even names, I don't think, but yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.